Computer. Okay, so we are very lucky to have with us tonight Dianne Burckhardt, who has a terrific podcast whose name I can never remember. Books
Is
and Banter.
book banter with
Book
Dianne
Banter.
Burckhardt.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry. I should have got that in my head before we came.
You've been on my show twice.
I know. You know, I have the memory of a goldfish, which is 30 seconds. So anyway, it's a great podcast. And I sent out a link today to your latest one. And one of our members even told me that she had bought some of your stuff and
Oh,
joined.
cool.
She's not here yet. So anyway, I want you to introduce yourself and tell us whatever you want to, about yourself and why I invited you to be here. Dianne Burckhardt.
Well, thank you for having me. This is going to be a lot of fun. Um, I am originally from Kansas, but I now live in Dusseldorf, Germany. I always like to joke that we have to have passport step conversations in our house because my husband's Chilean, our dog is a rescue from Russia. We live in Germany. I mean, it's just really very multicultural around here. But one of the things that is probably the reason why I would be here, for years when I was a kid, we lived in a haunted house that was actively haunted. I mean, you could see things moving around and you heard voices, cold spots. I mean, it was just really wild. There were even things that were not explainable through normal means. I mean, it like violated the laws of physics. Whenever I would do a kind of like seance with my friends, I would always light a white candle for protection and say a prayer. And one time when we were doing a seance, my candle shot up 6 inches, but then bent at a 90-degree angle and was burning like that. That was the last time I did one of those in our house. But the thing that probably really is the most interesting about me is that in, let's see, November 6th, 2002, I was working in a bookstore in a mall, and somebody had set up a big, heavy book, a hardcover book display for Christmas on a bookshelf that was broken. And they didn't tell anybody else that it was broken. They just kind of propped it up and left it. And then that night when we were closing, it was my job to move it. And when I pulled on the thing, it fell on me and knocked me onto the ground with like 250 pounds of force, is what they figured out. It was like being hit by a linebacker and slammed onto the ground. And it gave me brain damage. And I ended up having all kinds of neurological problems and that just started progressing. And over the next year, they were doing tests trying to figure it out. And they found that I had a Chiari malformation that they assumed I'd probably always had, but it had never been a problem. But when I got knocked on my butt, it shoved it into my spinal column like a cork. And so I wasn't getting enough spinal fluid to my brain anymore. And I was getting all kinds of brain damage. And my neurologist was telling me, or my neurosurgeon was saying that we can just wait and see if it corrects itself, or we can do surgery. And I was like, okay, if we wait and do surgery later, will the nerve damage that I'm having now reverse itself or is it permanent? He's like, there's no way to tell. It's probably going to be permanent. I'm like, well, then I don't want to wait to have, more brain damage accumulate. Let's do the surgery and stop this. Well, the first surgery I thought went really well. But then about a week after that, I sneezed. And the incision site where they had put a patch in the back of my head popped and my head started swelling up. And this was like the cause or start of a lot of problems. I ended up having 7 surgeries in 6 months. 6 of them were brain surgeries. And then after my fifth brain surgery, I got an antibiotic resistant MRSA staph infection in the incision site in my head. It infected the cerebral spinal fluid and became meningitis. I was immediately put in ICU quarantine for several weeks, being seen by infectious disease specialists every day, being pumped full of loads of antibiotics, but I could just feel that I was dying. And it got to the point where I was so weak, I couldn't even open my eyes. I didn't have the energy to open my eyes. And I was laying there in the hospital bed and I'm just thinking to myself, and I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I cannot do this anymore. It's like, please, God, if it is my fate to live, please make me start getting better now because I can't do this anymore. But if it's my fate to die, please kill me now because I can't do this anymore. And I was like, but I give up. I'm going to leave it all up to you. And whatever is supposed to happen, just please make it happen now. But I'm just putting myself completely in your hands. And I was in this hospital room all by myself. The lights were off. It was the middle of the night. But suddenly the room started to get bright and I was able to open my eyes and I heard a voice saying, that's all I was waiting for. And then everything went black and I died. And suddenly it was so weird because up until that time when I was fighting, I was terrified of everything. I was terrified of the pain. I was terrified of what's going to happen if I survived. How is my brain going to function after all of this infection and everything? But the moment that I gave up and I was like, just do whatever is supposed to happen, all of the fear went away. And there was nothing but calm and peace. And I felt like this was natural. This is what we're supposed to do. And when I died, it was the most incredible sense of peace and connection and love. And I don't know if any of you have ever seen Deep Space Nine with Odo, where on his home planet, he's like this liquid being and he just kind of melts into this ocean of all these other beings that they're individuals, but whenever they melt in together, they're like all completely connected and make this giant ocean. And that's kind of what it felt like. It was like I was just suddenly energy and I was connected to all the other energy. And it was like I suddenly realized whenever people say that we are children of God, it's kind of true, but not true. We are pieces of God. God is the collective energy of all of these energy beings together. That's the creative energy. There's enough energy with everybody connected that it creates everything in the universe. And when we come here to learn, we separate ourselves from that God energy and we come here to experience things because in our natural states, in this energy state, all we know is love and peace and connection. We don't know anger. We don't know jealousy. We don't know sadness. We don't know loss. We don't know any of these things. So we come here to experience them. And we take that memory of those experiences back with us. And when we connect, we can all share all of the experiences that we've all had. But we can't have them in that state. So we have to come here to do that. And the one thing that was really interesting before I had all of these surgeries and just all of the experiences that I'd gone through before all of this happened, I was extremely obsessive compulsive. I was so neurotic. I was always depressed. And whenever I got to come back, my personality had completely changed. And the thing that was really interesting is I was told that I did not have to come back, that I had done everything that I was supposed to do while I was here. I learned the things that I was supposed to learn, but I had done a good job. So if I wanted to, I could go ahead and come back and experience some more things. And I was like, and I was told that I said, but you're going to have a lot of pain. You're going to have a lot of struggle. You're going to have to go through a lot of crap. But there will be a lot of really good and amazing things that you get to experience too. I was like, okay, whenever I die the next time, do I get to come back here? And they're like, yes, this is who we are. This is where we all come. You always come back here. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Let's go do some more stuff. And I came back and I ended up, getting married and moving to Europe and doing all of these amazing things, traveling the world. And I have been in pain every minute of every day since I had my accident. It never stops. I always have a headache. And sometimes it gets so bad. The first 5 years after I came back, I was going back and forth to the emergency room anywhere from 1 to 3 times a month. I was being hospitalized about once every 3 months because of all of the pain. Even now, it's like I can tell since I am so tired and we've been doing so much the last couple of weeks here, I'm having a little bit of trouble speaking. I've had some memory issues today. I have had some like physical problems where I have felt like lead the last few days, where it's like so hard, it's like I'm just trudging through mud. But at the same time, I'm still here to experience all these things and feel all these things. And I take joy in that.
So why do you have a sense of why it's important to experience negative things if in that other place, wherever it may be, we don't have that? I mean, why do we need negativity?
Well, for one thing, it's like if you've always spent all of your time in the dark, you don't know how to enjoy the light. If you've always been in the light, you don't know anything else. I mean, experiences are valuable even when they're negative. You learn so much. It's like whenever you try to ride a bike and you fail and you fall down and you hurt yourself, you learn how to do it better the next time. And you grow and improve a lot of times through negativity in your life where that you don't get when everything is nice and easy and fun and happy. There are so many lessons to be learned from loss and strife and struggle that you don't get any other way. And it's not pleasant, but it is an education.
Some of those things are so extreme. It's
Yeah,
hard.
I mean, there's things that I've lived through before the brain surgeries that, I had been almost kidnapped when I was a child. I mean, literally two guys in a van stopping, trying to grab me into the van and me taking off, being assaulted by 13 guys. And the only reason I got out of it is because I knew how to box and put three of them in the hospital.
Wow.
I mean, there's all kinds of things that I lived through before I even had all the brain surgeries. And the thing is, it's like I absolutely wouldn't change any of it. Sorry, allergies. But it's those things that made me who I am. It's like I wouldn't give up any. It's people are always telling me, "Oh, I'm so sorry that you had to go through all those brain surgeries. I'm so sorry you have to live in pain." I'm like, I'm not. It's everything that I have been through made me who I am today. And if I hadn't had those experiences, I may not have this life that I have now. And I love my life.
Well, that's a good thing. So you talk about being part of God. Um, so if you pray, then yeah, who are we praying to if we're part of that? I mean,
You're just connecting back to what you would say, like the whole group, the group that is connected in, that energy state. That's who you're connecting with. And kind of like asking for their energy to come and to help you do the things that you need to do here, to give you the strength that you need to do here, and asking them to connect with you through those prayers and those, ceremonies, whatever you do to help you. I still pray to my ancestors.
Okay. Daisy has a hand up.
I was going to say what I believe is, and it's only my opinion, that there's part of that energy that we have, each of us, that is still with Prime Source or God or whatever you want to call it, that never leaves, that's still there.
Mhm.
And it's one of the ways that I think mediumship works. And I think our connection with people on the other side, work.
Mhm.
And I think near death experiences do open up channels to the afterlife. I don't know if you're a medium either, but it just seems that when you have some kind of a really big experience like that, it does open up. Can I ask you, do you sell books on your website? Do you review them? What do you do on your website?
Well, I am an author too. I wrote a historical fiction series as Stephen Burckhardt. I'm currently writing a paranormal romance series that's based on ghost hunting trips that we went on when I was in college.
Okay. So you sell your own books then,
Hmm.
basically.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, super. I'm an avid reader. I just finished a book I really like called Buckeye. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. And
Mm-mm.
I can't even describe what it's about. It's about a small town and the people interacting, but it's worth a read. Buckeye.
Yeah, I love reading too. It's like whenever I have the time, it's like I always have books on my phone and in my Kindle.
So other than people like me, who do you have? What kinds of guests do you have on a podcast?
We cover everything except for religious doctrine and politics and extreme erotica. But everything else goes, like we do fiction, we do nonfiction, we do every genre you can think of.
That leaves it open for lots of interesting people.
Yeah, that's what I love about it because I will read anything. Is as long as it is well done, I will read anything. And it's like I have a degree in journalism and a degree in forensic criminology where I actually studied to be a criminal profiler. It's like so I love reading all kinds of nonfiction, fiction, anything, as long as it's well done.
And how often is the podcast aired?
Once a week, every Wednesday.
Okay, I think Giles put some links in the chat. He's our person who always is quick to get the links. So yeah, I see he's even got you as AKA Stephen. And your bio. Wow, you really got it. Okay, are there any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a couple.
And
Um, I'm finding some similarities. We both had an NDE, although yours was much more colorful than mine was. We both grew up in a haunted house. And again, I don't know if you're a psychic or a medium, but I am both. But that kind of followed after the NDE and the haunted house thing. And I'm
Mhm.
also an author. And I'm agreeing with everything that you're saying. My current book that I'm reading through is A Walk in the Physical by Christian Sundberg. And I'm sitting there nodding my way through that. I don't know if you've read it, but you were talking about the fear thing. And I was just reading this last night, how we are supposed to, the fear thing is part of the reason why we're here,
Mhm.
to get through the fear and back to the love and to push through the fear because we want to hide from it. We want to push it away. We want to ignore it, anything, cover it up with a blanket. we don't want to face the fear on. And his suggestion, which I'm chewing on, is instead of doing all those things, work our way through it
Mhm.
and then get to the other side. And then, oh, look what I did. I got through that.
That's one of those things that's like when I met my husband. I met him in January and we were engaged in April. And if he had been able to come back from Denmark to Kansas to get married, we would have been married by September. And everybody just thought that I was absolutely crazy that this guy had come to the United States on a H-1B visa from Chile to work. And we met and were engaged so fast and got married so fast. And everybody just thought it was crazy. But we ended up getting married that December. So we met and married the same year. We've been married for 13 years. It's like, I never would have done that before my experience with death. I would have been way too afraid to take that kind of a chance. But I always tell people he's my peace. I have a lot of anxiety. And anytime I have any anxiety, all I have to do is go find my husband and hug him, and my anxiety is just gone. And those kinds of leaps of faith of just knowing that he was my peace and that he was the right choice, I never would have taken that chance. And I know that's one of those things where it's like it was getting through that fear because I never wanted a relationship. I never planned on getting married. We met when I was 46. I've been single all that time and I was never going to get married. And then I met him. And it was like, okay, this is the right thing to do. And I still think it was the right thing to do.
You don't
So
even look 46 now.
Oh, thank you. I'm almost 60 years old.
I wouldn't have guessed it. Somebody was trying to say something.
no, I was just going to throw something else in. And it's about working through this particular fear of yours of maybe having a permanent relationship and have I lost my mind? One of the things, or having other people tell you that you lost your mind. But you were pushing your way through the fear, whether it was consciously or subconsciously, you were doing it.
So I think it was actually pretty conscious.
Pretty
But it
cool.
was really funny you were asking and say, I don't know. I don't really consider myself to be a psychic medium, but I have had two instances that were very strong experiences with psychometry that were very bizarre. And when I was a teenager, we had a problem with animals would always show up in my bedroom. We lived in this small town in Kansas, and I mean, there was nothing crazy like around our house. There's just a field on each side, and then our house with an acre of land. But for some reason, it's like my bedroom was in the basement, and I could have just drawn a circle on the floor. And every once in a while, I would find an animal sitting in that exact spot.
Hmm.
And I found like a shrew, a cat having kittens that was not our cat, um, a, a wolf spider that was the size of a salad plate. And that sucker showed up twice.
Oh,
And I'm terrified of spider bites. I'm not afraid of spiders. I'm afraid of being bitten by a spider because I found out I'm allergic to spider bites and almost had to have a place of my leg amputated because of a spider bite that wasn't even considered poisonous. So the second time that wolf spider showed up in my bedroom, I started backing up towards my bed and was yelling for my dad to come and get it again. And I saw something move out of the corner of my eye, and I looked down. There was a snake by my foot, and there was a couple of different kinds of
Hmm.
snakes that showed up. There was uh, a digu, which is supposed to be native to Chile, which I thought was really funny since I ended up marrying a guy from Chile. And there were hundreds of ground squirrels, like little chipmunks, that lived around our house. They weren't around any of the other houses in that area, but around our house, there were tons of these. And my mom and I went to a psychic fair, and she always liked getting her tarot cards read. And I always liked walking around getting like oh, I can't remember what they're called, the photographs that's supposed to show your aura,
Or
and
yeah.
checking out all
Curly
of the,
Curly photography.
yeah. I love doing that because they always found like weird things in the things. Like there was one that they did that there was a shape of a buffalo and a wolf and something else when I was a teenager. But I'm Cherokee, so I just figured that was normal for my people. But my mom was getting her tarot cards read, and I was just walking around looking at like all the stones and everything. And I walked over to meet her. And I walked up behind her, and the woman who was reading her tarot card says, "You call animals to you." And I'm like,
Wow.
"No, I do not." And she was like, "Animals are always come to you." And I'm like, "Yeah, they come to me, but I don't try and call them." I mean, there was one time that we went camping and I went and sat to read under a tree, and three armadillos came out of the grass and tried to crawl into my lap. And I'm like, this stuff just happens. I don't call them to me. And she's like, "No, you're calling them to you." She said, I was a very depressed teenager, and she said that your sadness, you're calling them to you. They're coming to comfort you and be with you.
Missed.
And this happened probably until, I mean, there was always, we lived in an apartment for a while after we moved out of this house, and there were always squirrels on our balcony trying to get into the apartment. And, everywhere I went, stray cats would start following me. And even here, it's like we've got squirrels that come up on our balcony and birds that come up on our balcony. And my dog is always right beside me. He follows me everywhere. But all of these things that were things that I never intentionally tried to do, I actually tried to shield myself really hard from any kind of psychic activity because it is very prevalent in my family. My mom and my sister have seen ghosts. My aunt saw them regularly and she could talk to them. But I was always bound and determined that I was going to shield myself from all of that. I had enough stuff going on in my own head. I didn't want to connect to others. But there were two times that I had these really weird experiences. And it's one reason why I always wear gloves whenever we go to historical places now, because I don't like to touch things with my hands.
Oh.
A friend of mine, I got in my car. She was going to drive me to high school. And she had a rosary hanging from her rearview mirror, and she had never had that there before. I'm like, "Oh, this is really pretty." And I reached up and I touched it. And then all of a sudden, the next thing I know, she's slapping my hand away from it. And I'm like, "What the heck?" And she was like, "You weren't breathing." She said, "As soon as you touched that, you started talking a mile a minute, telling me everything about the woman who owned this thing." And I'm like, "I wasn't talking." I said, "I did see a picture in my head," and I started to describe it. She's like, "Yeah, that is my fiance's grandmother who had this rosary. This was hers. You just told me everything about her." And I'm like, Okay. I still, right now, I can see that picture of her sitting in her chair in her living room by the front window with a little table with a crocheted cover over it that she had made and a little lamp that looked like one of those fake Tiffany lamps, sitting there crocheting and having the rosary in her lap because she had just finished praying the rosary. And then the second time was on one of our ghost hunting trips. And this is actually going to be in my first book for the paranormal romance series. There is a haunted hotel in Lawrence, Kansas called the Eldridge. And they have got a cornerstone that is up near the top of the ceiling in one of the rooms because the building had actually burned down a couple of times and many people have died there. But we were doing investigation of this building, and we asked to stay in the most haunted room, and they put us in this room. And we went in, and the ceilings were really high. They were like 10 feet high. And I walked into the bedroom because there's like a little sitting room and then a separate room for a bedroom. And this cornerstone was up at the top near the ceiling. And my friend and I are in the room, and I'm like, I don't know why, but I really want to touch that. And she was like, okay. And I had to step up on the nightstand to be able to reach it. And it was kind of the same thing happened. I put my hand on it. The next thing I know, she is pushing me back on the bed. And I'm like, what the heck? And same thing. She said, the minute I touched it, I started talking a mile a minute, describing what I was seeing. And I still have that picture in my head of suddenly standing on a dirt road, looking across the street at a white board building with the like clapboard sidewalks, buckboards going by, with horse-drawn buckboards. There's a fire in the hotel, and people are starting to come out. You can hear a bell ringing. People are starting to come out to do like a bucket brigade thing. And I look up and I can see that there are people in the top level, like hitting on the glass, trying to break the glass to get out, and they're on fire. And we had made a point to not research anything about this hotel other than to know that it was a very popular, haunted hotel that people went to go investigate. We didn't want to be influenced by anything. And this building that we were investigating was a 5-story brick building. And I'm like, okay, this was just nonsense, because what I saw was a 3-story white wood building. This has nothing to do with anything. It's just, a weird experience. And that night, as we're going around, taking like Gauss meetings and meter readings and taking photographs and everything, we go down and we talk to the night desk man. We're like, okay, we've done some initial investigations. We want to go ahead and find out some information about this hotel now and the history. What can you tell us? And he goes, oh, well, this is really easy. He said, see that little door over there? Go through there. And that's our historical room. It has models of the way that the building has looked through different times. It has articles that have been in the newspaper about big events that had happened here, like when the thing burned down. And he said, everything that you want to know is in that room. I'm like, okay, let's go. So we go. In the center of the room is a big diorama with a 3-story white wood building. That was the original hotel that burned down first during Quantrill raiders coming through. And we read the story from the newspaper about all these people burning to death in the upper windows or upper level because they couldn't get the windows open.
Well, that sounds to me like you're a medium.
I try really hard not to be.
So what got you started in ghost hunting then, if you didn't want to be? I take it that was before your accident.
Yeah, that was way before the accident. But it was living in the haunted house. People actually came to investigate our home because so many things were going on here, because that was where all the animals were showing up. There were I still remember the very first day that we walked into this house. I was 13 years old, and my parents had just bought this house, and they're bringing me and my sister in to show us this new place that we're moving into. And the minute that I stepped over the threshold of this new house, it felt like a weight just slammed me in the chest. I'm like, nope. And I stepped back and I'm like, I don't want to live here. I said, there is something in there. It's not a good place. And my parents like, oh, you're 13. You don't want to change schools. We were coming from a little farm town where there were 35 kids in the 5th grade, or I guess it was 7th grade then, and going to a big school that actually, had lockers, and you had to change rooms for all the different classes and everything. And like, you just don't want to do this. That's all that's going on here. And I'm like, no, it's this house. I was like, there's something in this house. And what's really funny is my mom, my sister, and my niece and I all saw things, all experienced things, My dad, if you had asked him, nothing ever happened. There was nothing in the house. He never experienced anything.
Hmm.
But there was one thing. My niece, if you ask her about the house, she just automatically starts crying. She won't talk about it at all.
Wow.
But my mom and I, there was something after my sister moved out, and it was my mom, my dad, and I still living there. My mom and I started noticing our underwear was disappearing.
Wow.
It's like just for some reason, every time we went and opened a drawer, there was just fewer pieces in our drawers. And I got down to where I had like one pair of underwear left. I'm like, okay, I'm going shopping. And I went shopping. I bought, like 2 packages of underwear, came home. And when you come in the front door, there's like the couch was right here. And then you go down this hall, and that's where the bedrooms and the bathroom was at the end of the hall. So I dropped my bag of stuff that I just bought on the couch, and I go to the bathroom to use the toilet. And then I turn around and come back and I pick up the bag, and it's empty. And I'm the only one home. Nobody else is in the house. And I just get so mad and I start yelling in this house. I'm like, okay, I don't know who you are or what you're doing, but I have had it. I just bought those. If you do not put them back where I can find them right now, I will find somebody to come and exercise this house and send you somewhere horrible. And I mean, I'm just like walking around the house ranting at the air. And I go back into the bathroom, and sitting on the counter, neatly folded out of the package that I bought them in, because they were in like little plastic packages, because it was like groups of 6 in a package. Neatly folded on the counter was all of the underwear I just bought.
So
And I was like, that's right, you put it back and said, leave them alone.
you had a pervert ghost.
It was just weird things would disappear and reappear. And that was just one of those weird quirks that for some reason they chose that.
So did you ever find out who lived in the house?
um One of the like seances that we tried to do, it actually, there was like messages that came through that it was 3 people. There were 2 people, and 2 women and 1 man. And the man was the, I guess you'd say, evil entity. And the 2 women were there trying to be protective.
Hmm.
But there were so many strange things that happened in that house. And we found out later that it was built on top of an old landfill. So I always got a weird feeling about what on earth could have been in that landfill. But we could go out and like dig in the backyard, and after you get about 2 feet down, you would start finding like old ink pots and tin cans from like the early 1900s. I mean, it was wild, the things that we found out there.
Hmm.
But there was this one, gosh, what was it? Sorry, I'm starting to lose my train of thought. It's getting, I'm starting to
No
get
fear.
tired.
Yeah, middle of the night. Well, you don't have to strain yourself. We can let you go to sleep.
No, I'm actually rather energized by that, but it's just whenever I get tired, I start losing my train of thought a little bit easier. Because I mean, I do technically now have 7 different neurological conditions. I have ADHD and OCD, but then I have a Chiari malformation where part of my brain is actually down in my spinal column. I have a syrinx, which is a pocket of fluid inside my spinal cord. I have hydromyelia, hydrocephalus, for which I have a valve in the top of my head, and you can like see the cord that goes down, so it takes off the extra cerebral spinal fluid and dumps it by my intestines, and my body just reabsorbs it. And what is it? It's like, oh, and I was just recently diagnosed with nystagmus, which also comes with a lot of these
Well, considering all that, it's really amazing what you've accomplished. I think everybody's nodding. Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
a miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, seems like you came here for, some important reasons. Wow.
Fascinating, Diane.
Thank
Are
Yeah.
you going to do or have you done an autobiography?
I'm actually working part-time on the paranormal romance and then part-time on my medical autobiography where I'm just talking about the neurological problems that I have and how they like affect my life and what it was like to go through 7 brain surgeries in 7 months. And I
Mhm.
actually, it's like if I had listened to my doctors, I would probably still be living with my parents in Kansas, just zoned out on narcotics
Yeah.
because they told me that there was nothing else that could be done. I was going to live in pain for the rest of my life. I mean, debilitating pain, still going to the ER like several times a month, being hospitalized a couple of times a month, just living on heavy loads of narcotics to get through the pain issues. And I told my neurologist, I said, just because you don't have the answers doesn't mean they're not out there. I was like, so, you can go away and I'll go find them myself. And I went to my general practitioner,
Mhm.
who is still a good friend of mine. I'm like, okay, I want to experiment on myself. And I said, I want to, have you do some blood work and see, what my levels are on all of the important things. And then let's just try some stuff and see how it affects me. And I started like changing my diet, changing the products that I used, taking vitamins and supplements. And I ended up going like whole foods. I became a vegetarian. I, got rid of a lot of chemicals, a lot of processed things. And whenever I went vegetarian, my pain dropped like 80%. And I never went back to the emergency room again after that for pain issues. I don't take any narcotics. The heaviest thing I ever take is Excedrin for pain issues. I have not had since I moved here to Europe, and they have like so many regulations on food where they can't have all of these chemicals and colors and additives and all of these things here, and it keeps it lower sugar. I have not had a debilitating migraine that would actually put me in bed for like 4 years now.
Wow.
It's the non-GMO products. Yeah.
It's amazing how one of the things I started researching was that pain is almost always caused by inflammation somewhere. And
Mhm.
so I started changing my whole life to avoid things that caused inflammation. And it was amazing the results that I had. And I always tell people it's like I'm not giving you medical advice. The thing I did was I went to my doctor and I had her keep track of everything so that if I started doing something, it was like, oh, nope, your vitamin D levels are getting poison high. We need to pull this back. She was monitoring everything that I was doing to make sure that I was not doing more harm to myself. And I always make sure to tell people that was a very important point. But she was also very open to everything that I wanted to try. And as long as it wasn't going to be, obviously harmful, she was willing to let me try it.
Well, good for you not listening to that bad advice that is so often given.
Mm-hmm.
I
Oh
think,
yeah, they were even telling me you'll never work again. I went back to work. Oh well, you'll never be able to work for full time. I'm like, I started working full time. Oh well, you're never going to be able to do anything physically demanding. I started working in a warehouse, carrying boxes all the time. It's like, okay, what's next?
yeah, well, that's really admirable. And Diane gave me some samples of her handwriting before and after surgeries. And I published an article in my newsletter for the not my personal newsletter, the one for the American Handwriting Analysis Foundation. Yeah, it
And
was
even my
interesting.
husband was like, "Wow, that's you."
Yeah. we know what I mean, handwriting doesn't tell everything about a person, but it does give a lot of important information.
Mhm.
Let's see.
Oh, and I was going to tell you too, it's like I don't think those first two uh things, the Arizona Artist Guild, that's not me. Because Burckhardt for me is Burckhardt.
Did, oh, I think Giles he usually has to leave a little early. He's gone. Yeah, that's the thing. But he said he left you a message here. Dear Diane, so sweet of you to go over all that damn pain and fear once more. We struggle to empathize and are the better for hearing it. And he thanks me. Yeah, it's funny. You talk about the animals. How many cats? He's got like a cat and dog rescue kind of place. His wife has like 15 cats or something. I don't know how
Oh,
many dogs. Yeah,
that's I in an FBI thriller series that I have like plotted out. I want to have my FBI woman who I'm kind of like modeling after me.
yeah,
um she ends up going back to Kansas and starting an animal rescue farm. And I'm like, that's my dream. I would love to do that.
that would be wonderful, wouldn't it? Well, Christine, did you want to add something?
I lived in Kansas for many years. I was curious as to where you lived.
Oh, we kind of lived all over. Mostly it was around Wichita.
Okay,
But I
that's
lived in Benton, Kansas. That's where we had the ranch. And then the haunted house was in between Valley Center and Wichita.
very interesting. I was in Wichita for 30 years, 35 years.
Oh, wow.
It's interesting. Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. And the Cherokee, um, my former, I don't know how these things go, but my husband's daughter, ex-husband's daughter, her mother was Cherokee,
Hmm.
and she lived in a little town around Anthony, and they had a trailer there, and she said that she saw spirits come in and sit down, and it's like, so I wonder if it's the Cherokee DNA maybe that
Maybe.
has that
Isn't that
open
Well,
what Linda G, Linda Grindle, the psychic, she has a podcast, isn't she Cherokee also? I think she is. Huh.
that's one of those things. It's like I've always been very connected to my Cherokee heritage. And I think Cherokees and a lot of Native tribes in general tend to be way more open to the spiritual side of world.
Yeah.
When I first got here, and I'm sorry, go ahead,
No,
Sheila.
you.
And when I first got here, I was late. My son had called, and it's like I looked at the time. It's like, oh, I gotta go. I'm late. Um, but it was just you. What do you think on the theory of vibrational frequency? Because it seems to me like you're at a very high vibrational frequency, and that's why the animals come to you. And you've done an amazing job of healing yourself. Just amazing. So I could not. So is healing part of your journey here also? Is my question, I think. I mean, it must be. Look what you've done.
One of the things, it's like I actually don't talk to a lot of people about this stuff. And it took me a long time to decide to actually write my medical memoir. But every once in a while, I would get this just like need to tell somebody about it. And either that person just lost someone, or this one woman that I met at one of the language schools here. I was like, I don't know why, but I feel like, I should tell you this. And I told her, and she's like, I am really so glad that you told me that. She said, I was just diagnosed with terminal cancer. And she's like, I have been dealing with so much fear about death and what's going to happen. And she's like, I feel better. She's like, I'm still afraid, but I feel a little bit better. It gives me some hope that it's not going to be as bad as I think it is.
Hmm.
And it's like, and I always tell people, it's like, I don't have any fear of being dead now, which I was a daredevil before, so it kind of does not help that. But I do have a fear. I have a terrible fear of dying slowly and painfully again, because the first time around, it's like it took weeks. It was so painful. It's like, and I do consider myself to be a tough person, but it beat me the first time around. And I will even share this with you. It's like I only started sharing this about 2 years ago. Nobody knew this. No one at all knew. But after the fourth surgery, I tried to kill myself because the pain was just so much. And it was just, surgery after surgery after surgery. And I did not see an end to it. And the thing is, I tried to make a mix of like my sleeping pills that they'd given me and my painkillers and do just enough to kill myself, but make it look like an accidental overdose so that my family could get my life insurance. And what I ended up doing was sleeping for 16 hours. And when I woke up, I realized that one of my big issues at that time was sleep deprivation because of all the pain. And so then I started making sure that I got good quality sleep. I did up the sleeping pills and so that I could get, full night's sleep and everything. But I never told anyone about that until I did a podcast with this one woman who lost her dad to suicide.
Mhm.
And she's now an advocate to try and help people who are survivors of suicide. And I shared that with her. And I said, there's so many things that can contribute to that desire. Emotional pain, physical pain, sleep deprivation, substance abuse. There's so many things that can contribute to those ideas. And a lot of times people are not going to see when somebody has those ideas. People can mask so well. It's like, especially if you've done it for a long time. And it's really incredible that it's kind of like the same thing with my death experience. Usually whenever I end up getting the urge to tell somebody about, my suicide attempt, it's somebody who has lost somebody to suicide or somebody who is contemplating suicide.
You're a medium. I'm curious about your mother because you had that strong, intense reaction to going into the new house. And you said she's had many experiences. How did she, when did she start realizing you were right? And how did that go?
I think it was when we'd be sitting there in the living room watching TV and something would just start sliding across the coffee table. And my dad would always just say, it's uneven. It's like, then why didn't that slide, yesterday or the day before? Because it's been sitting there this whole time. It's like, oh, a breeze must have pushed it and made it go. Like, okay. But then, we would see things sliding across the coffee table or sliding across the mantelpiece. And there was one time in my bedroom, I had a fireplace in my bedroom and I had one of those old popcorn poppers that looked like the old like bed warmer kind of things. It was a long stick with the round thing. And my friends and I were sitting there and we started talking about the ghost and it started to swing. And I was like, stop it or we're going to have you exercise. And it stopped dead. It's like, it didn't like, they're like, they're like, oh, it's just wind coming in from the flue. And I'm like, the flue's closed. There's no air. It's like, put your hands there. There's no air coming in from the fireplace. And I was like, and even if it was, it wouldn't have just stopped straight at the middle. It would have slowly stopped swinging. But it was just stuff like that. And a lot of times I would just sit there and talk to whatever was going on and tell it to stop it.
Wow. So what was your dad, an engineer or something? What did he do?
So, well, my dad was a truck driver and he was only home on the weekends. So he wasn't there to experience a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It was probably a lot easier for him to deny everything because he wasn't always there in the middle of it.
Oh, true. Wow. So, Chasey, you missed the underwear stealing ghost.
Sorry.
You'll have to watch the video.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that was interesting. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing some fascinating stories with us, for sharing yourself with us,
And thank you
This has been fun.
for staying up all night. Does anybody have any last minute questions they would like to ask? No, they're just all stunned. I'm going to turn off the record.